Today I want to share with you something that I've struggled with throughout my professional life, and I also want to share with you how I overcame that obstacle. You see, we hear all the time about how important it is to read and all of the good things that come from reading, and how reading is the foundation for your and my success. And I absolutely believe that to be true. But also understand that reading is a very painful and frustrating process for a lot of us. And the reason why that is because we read, and we read quite well. But sometimes we don't understand what it is that we read. I'm one of those people. I struggle with reading and comprehending what it is that I read. Again, I read quite well, but understanding what I've read is a huge struggle for me. So for me and people like me, you want to be able to read a book, understand it, and then apply the book. That's the whole purpose in reading. We don't want to read books just to say we read a book and not get anything from it. That defeats the purpose. So we don't want to do less of what we need to do, and we know that when we get frustrated and when something is painful, we do less of it. Reading is certainly not one of those things that we want to do less of, so we have to be creative in finding out systems and ways to approach a book that can make it a more inviting and wonderful experience than what you've been accustomed to so far if you're struggling reading a book. So I'm going to share with you today the 3 most important things that I do every single time before I read a book, and how it helps me with comprehending and understanding what it is that I'm reading. Number 1, anytime before I read a book, I always listen to the book first. And I listen to that book via an app called Audible, or A-U-D-I-B-L-E. Again, that's A-U-D-I-B-L-E. And that's an app, and you can download that app and download books to that app after you've paid about 2 or 3 credits for the book, 1 in some cases. And now you have access to the book, and you can listen to that book when you're outside cutting your grass, or whether you're, at the gym working out, or even when you're driving in your car. You can always be listening to that book. And what I found is that when I listen to a book, it brings so much clarity to the book. And when I'm reading it, after I've already listened to it, it makes so much more sense. I can read it and enjoy reading it because, it's just a more vivid picture than it was if I was just reading the book without having listened to it first. So I highly, highly suggest that you get an app, whether it's Audible or another type of app where you can download and listen to books prior to reading them. I highly suggest doing that. The second thing I do is I only read books that align with what it is that I want to accomplish. For example, this book, Think and Grow Rich. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business person. So when you see the title Think and Grow Rich, that's exactly what I want to do. That aligns with what I want to achieve. And I'm eager to read something like this. And I'm focused when I come to read a book like this. Whereas if I'm reading something that I'm not interested in, my mind is going to wander and I'm not going to know what it is that I read. So I only pick books that I am really interested in reading. Books that align with what I want to achieve in my life and business. Now, the third thing that I do is anytime I read a book, I always commit to this being a learning experience. And I embrace that experience because I know what's going to come from it. At the same time, as I commit to it being a learning experience, I'm always going to ask myself 2 questions after every chapter. And those 2 questions are, number 1, what is the author trying to tell you in this chapter? What message is he trying to convey to you? And the second question that I'm going to ask myself, what are the 3 most important things that you take from this particular chapter? So I am preparing myself for a learning experience from chapter 1 to the end of that book. And then after I finish the book, then I'm going to go back and read the notes. So not only am I listening to the book, I'm reading the book, and then I'm reading over the notes that I've taken, while I was reading the book. And that makes for a much better learning experience. Then I can understand it. But if I read it and just rely on the fact that I'm reading it in hopes that I'll understand it, that's a struggle for me. So those are the 3 things that I do to help me with reading and comprehending what it is that I've read. If you see any one or all 3 of these things that I do to help you with reading and comprehending, by all means take them, enjoy them, and make them a part of your system. If you have some other things that you do to help you with reading and comprehension, please share them in the comments below. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. And always remember, we are what we repeatedly do. What we do over and over and over again, we eventually become. So I urge you to become a better reader so that you can read, understand, and apply the principles of what it is that you're reading to your everyday life. See you at the top, because the bottom is much too crowded.